are in listen-only mode.
Okay, this is Kathleen Carup, and we are going to be having our delegate meeting for 2013. Right now we have about 18 participants online, and we are expecting considerably more. Everyone on the webinar is muted other than myself at the moment. Tracy is also going to be here and will be speaking as well. If you all have any questions or would like to make comments, please feel free to type them in or raise your hand, and I will be able to unmute you at times. If you're having a hard time hearing me, please let me know that as well. I think I'm going to give it a few more minutes since we are waiting for some people, and hopefully we can begin promptly at 7 p.m. Okay, this is again Kathleen Carup. I guess I kind of feel like I should say, Camille, can you hear me? Because I can't hear myself. Welcome to all of you who are joining us. I certainly appreciate it. It's nice that you all have joined us for this webinar. We actually have 77 people who registered for this webinar, which certainly tells me that that you all really like this format a lot. Okay, everyone, welcome to the 2012-2013 Delegate meeting. My name is Kathleen Carup, and I am the Governance Manager for the Council. Primarily, I work with Tracy and our Board of Directors. I plan the annual Council meeting. Tracy is also here with me in her office, and she will be joining us from time to time to add a little bit more information about this meeting and the information that we're going over. If at any time you have a question, please feel free to type it into the question box, and I will do my best to answer. The objective of this meeting is to give you all as delegates a little bit of information about how you can discover, connect, and take action in order to fulfill your responsibilities as members of our corporation. We want you to get an idea about what your requirements are as a delegate. We want you to learn how you can connect with other members of your service unit, and we want you to take action by serving as a vital member of the GSCCC Corporation. You are all acting in the governance capacity. I know so many of you operate all of the time in the operations capacity, so this is a little bit different for you. The discover part of your job seems to take a little bit longer maybe than the rest of it. The connecting part is probably the most fun part. Then taking action, of course, by attending annual council meeting, which is March 9th, 2013 this year, and will be held at the Embassy Suites in Hampton Convention Center up in Hampton. I'm sorry, I pause occasionally to go back and check to make sure that I'm not getting any questions that I'm missing, so I'm just trying to check that from time to time. Okay, we are going to ask that you all, in this meeting, discover a sense of what your role is. We want to develop some practical ideas about the state of the council. We're going to give you some information about the finances and what we've been doing. We want to give you a little bit of information about what issues will be voted on at annual council meeting. We want you to take this information back to members of your service unit and share that information with them. We want you to feel connected to your community as you are their representative at annual council meeting. And then we're going to ask that you take action by advocating for your service unit, by educating your service unit, and by attending annual council meeting where your vote really does make a difference. A delegate is a voting member of a corporation. GSCCC is an actual corporation. We are chartered by GSUSA. You are elected by the members of your service unit. You are responsible to the members of your service unit, and you will serve a term of 1 year. Girl Scouts nationally asks that we have what they call a decision influencing system, so we want to be able to let you all know information that's coming out of our board, and we want our board to have information that you all give to us so that we're all working together for the common mission. As a delegate, you have certain accountabilities, certain things that you must do in order to fulfill your job. We want you to attend the delegate meeting that you are here for today. We want you to present the views of your service unit. We want you to become informed about the issues facing the council. You assist in the preparation of annual council meeting by making sure that all of the forms that you all have to fill out are turned in, and the other delegates for service units are also turned in, so that we can be prepared for annual council meeting and know who will be joining us and who will be representing their service units. You all have a particular set of qualifications that make you the perfect delegate for us. Number one is that you believe in the mission and the purpose of Girl Scouting. And again, so many of you are operational volunteers all of the time and have been for years, so we certainly know that you cover that. You must be a registered Girl Scout in good standing who is over the age of 14 with our council, and you must be willing to devote the time necessary to fulfill the duties of your position. So tonight, as we discover, we're going to do a State of the Council. Tracy's going to jump in and join me to give this information. That's going to include a financial report. She's going to talk a little bit about the charter, and she's going to talk about closing out our 100th birthday. I am getting ready to turn it over to Tracy, and I just want to make sure that she has everything she needs and that we've taken care of that. Tracy, are you there and can you hear me?
Yes.
Whoops, I think I might have just jumped one too many. Okay, there you go.
Thanks a lot, Kathy, and good evening to all of you. This is a huge group that is still arriving to our meeting, so thank you all for giving us your time tonight. I will take you through some financial information at this time, and we have some good news to share. This graph compares our 2 fiscal years, the one we just ended in September 30th and the one prior to that. And what we like to look at is the green line right now, because that shows how we ended the most recent fiscal year. You will notice that we had a significant jump in income, very significant jump in income, and we expected that and planned for that during the 100th anniversary. We had hoped for an increase in contributions with an intense focus on alumni engagement, as well as increased shop sales as well. What you will notice is obviously that huge line right up front. That is our heavy dependency on our girl-generated income, those product sales. You can see it's a teeny bit higher than it was the prior year. That revenue pretty much stayed the same. And you can also see that with the program fees. But between those two categories, that is the majority of the income in our council. Where we were able to increase the diversity in our revenue streams was with regard to the next category, investment income. Not only did the markets do a little bit better for all of us last year, we took some serious due diligence through the Finance Committee to take a look at our investment policy and did heavy interviewing with the folks who manage our reserves and our investments, and explained to them that they needed to do a better job on behalf of our girls. And they did. You can see that significant jump there. Also, you can see a small blip in contribution, so that's our adult generated income. Still not exactly where we have the potential to be or where we'd like to see it, but we're definitely moving in the right direction. Shop sales also increased last year, as we expected, due to the 100th anniversary memorabilia, as well as that huge blip in sales right before they had a discontinuation of GSUSA badges. You can also see a small amount of growth with our special events. We continue to look at ways of generating adult funding outside of our movement for our movement. So overall, a very nice year for the 100th anniversary. Now let's take a look at how we spend the money on the next slide. We're going back quickly. Okay, great. You will see our expenses also went up last year. Again, those green lines, and you can see those totals right up top there. We spent more money last year too. And you can see that we spent a significant amount more on program services. That's the direct services to our volunteers and inevitably our girls. Our fundraising expenses did go up some. We did increase the staff in that department, and as well as sometimes when you do fundraising efforts, you spend money to make money. And we had a couple of philanthropy events outside of the Samoa Soiree, which were more donor cultivation events. They were successful, and we have those continuing to, we have those in the calendar for this fiscal year as well. The management and general expenses were pretty flat from year to year. What this really shows you, and this is what we present to funders, including our United Ways, is that the majority of every dollar brought into this council is spent on program services. So that is, again, on volunteers and girls. We did end this fiscal year with a surplus. Once again, we have gone through this entire economic troubling time ending with surplus budgets, and we did once again this year, which allows us to have a nice reserve for our council. A reserve is mandated by GSCCC through the chartering process, and we are expected to have between 6 and 12 months of reserves. And that is to role model out fiscal responsibility to our girls, and also to maintain a fiscally sound organization. I am very pleased to be able to say that we are just over 10 months in our reserves. Our board would like us to stay around 9 months, which is approximately what we raise in net in any given cookie year. That would allow our council to be able to continue Girl Scouting efforts throughout an entire fiscal year if we were to have anything devastational happen to our cookie program, which allows us to be in a very stable situation in the Girl Scout Council of Colonial Coast. We will provide you as delegates another level of detail on the financials in your delegate packet that you will receive in the beginning of February.
Before I move on to the next slide, let me just remind everyone that if you have a question, please feel free to type it in. I'm watching as Tracy is making her comments. So if you have a question, please type it in, and we'll do our best to follow up on that.
I'll just pause for another second. All right. The charter is a huge conversation to have with respect to Girl Scout governance. The charter is how we are able to deliver Girl Scouting in our area. We are chartered by our national organization, GSCCC, and for those of you who are fairly new in this role, there are 112 Girl Scout councils across the country, and they're very significant criteria that we must meet and maintain in order to continue to be a chartered Girl Scout council. There are two types of charter, a qualified and an unqualified. A qualified charter would mean that you have some findings that you need to work on. It might be that your financials might not be sound, or you've had significant decreases in your membership, those types of things. We went into this process with new criterion this year that we had not seen until we actually went into the process. So we submitted our data, a very thorough amount of data, with a little bit of trepidation because of the new criteria. We actually expected to only receive possibly a one-year charter. We were thrilled to receive a note right at the end of the fiscal year that we were going to receive a 3-year unqualified charter, which means we are in very high standing with our work with GSUSA, and that we are meeting the majority of the benchmarks set forth from GSUSA. This is significant news, and we should all be extremely proud because we don't do this as staff alone. This took all of you doing what you do in this council to make that happen. So I hope that you all can feel a moment of success with us in receiving this significant status.
Tracy, Dusty Davis typed in a question asking, how does GSCCC rank among other councils for sustainability?
That's actually a pretty interesting question, and I'm hesitant to answer it because I don't have all the data in front of me, but I certainly could get those to you as part of your packet. I will say to you that GSUSA started this week, actually, a new way of gathering councils to share data, and they've divided us once again into regions, and we are part of the Southeast region, and there's 27 councils in the Southeast region. And I was looking at the data that they gave us right before our call this morning that lists all of the councils in the Southeast region, their girl membership, their market share, their adult membership, etc. They also have some financial information on that and our percentage of public support. There's some good data here, and while it's only 27 councils, I could probably pull out some data points to bring to you through that. But I would say to you, which I immediately look at where we rank with girl market share, and out of the 27 councils, we ranked number 4 in market share, and we are serving 9.9% of available girls. The financial data is here. It's a little more cumbersome. I can't necessarily pull some specifics out right off the bat, but I can absolutely do that and kind of give you a ranking as to where we stand with maybe reserves would be a good thing to measure so you would understand kind of where we rank with that. I'd be happy to extrapolate that type of information and get it out to you all. Any other questions, Kathy?
Nope, that's it at this time. I will say that Susan Ramsland sent a note of congratulations on a great job for receiving our 3-year unqualified charter.
Thank you. We were absolutely thrilled, and if any of you were at the leader support team kickoff and that sort of thing, we had just submitted our data, and you could tell from my presentation there that I was a little bit nervous. So thank you for noting that, Susan. And just take a few minutes now here to share with you some of those criteria and standards. And I know you listen from both hats, a governance hat and an operational hat, and this actually may help explain some of the changes that you've experienced over the past several years in Girl Scouting. There's 3 main standards, 3 main areas that we're measured on. The first is absolutely what you would expect to see, mission delivery. So this is where they look at not only our girl membership, but they chunk it down into a couple of areas. So they're looking at our market share, our retention, our growth. They also break down all our racial and ethnic categories to see that we really are at parity with our community. Much more data-driven than it has ever been in the past. The second area is the newer components of the charter, and that is us using and delivering the Girl Scout leadership experience with the national program portfolio. And that one of the requirements is that they measure journey sales, the journey awards. So how many are we selling versus how many girls we're serving? Are we using the journey programs? They also measure us in our delivery of pathways. So the majority of girls are still in Girl Scout troops, and that is absolutely our strongest pathway. Now they're also measuring us in our camp pathway, our tribal pathway, the events and series pathways as well. Not only are they measuring girls in those pathways, but they're also tracking our volunteers who serve girls in those pathways. That they really want us to show that girls are being served by volunteers and not by staff. Volunteer retention numbers, adult membership is very similar to the measurements that they're using to measure girls. Again, growth, retention, that we represent our community. The second major area of the charter requirements is in governance and administration, and this is every compliance area that the board deals with. They want to see that we have a planning process, that our budget is approved by the board, that our board reflects the diversity of our council, not just race and ethnicity, but in their jobs and skills they bring to the table and in geography. They want to make sure that our bylaws are reviewed and all our compliance documents are submitted and that sort of thing. And then there's a nice huge component that's pretty new now that deals with staff, and they are looking at how we attract staff, retain staff, and provide them the professional development that they need. These are all very new measurements with the criteria, with the chartering process. One area that has always been in Girl Scout chartering is in resource development, and that's making sure that we are raising money through a diverse means, that we're not just sustaining ourselves on the backs of girls in the cookie program. And so the criteria are a little more stringent now. They're actually measuring, are we securing corporate funding? Are we, in addition to the annual campaign, do we have corporate funding? Are we doing grants? And also, are we securing planned gifts? Very new measurements there, but it has always been a focal point to measure us with regards to philanthropy. They want to make sure we have a long-range property plan, that we are very tight in managing the assets of our council, not just our money, but our property, and that we maintain it for safety, and also that girls are using it. We also must have a communications plan, as you would expect, and they want to see that we're using their national branding. And the final component is pretty new, and that is with our efforts with advocacy, and that we are taking a proactive role in the community. And I will tell you that that is an area our council is very strong. We serve both North Carolina and Virginia, and we're at both state houses several times a year. And we also engage our local legislative folks on a regular basis. We do look for girls to join us in those roles and in those meetings. And we actually believe we are very successful with advocacy in our council. So that, in less than 5 minutes, is the Girl Scout chartering process. It is very stringent, but we would be happy to show you in more detail the documents that we produce for the Girl Scout Council of Colonial Coast. I'll pause to see if any questions come through on that.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay. Well, this is a new year in the Girl Scouting across the country, and I am excited and very thrilled to be able to say that we are 101 now. We had a phenomenal 100th anniversary. We celebrated, I believe, in every city and county that we serve. We had phenomenal events throughout the council, both at the council level and at the service unit level. And it was truly a pleasure to be able to hear all of your stories, the things that your girls were doing in their troops and in their service units. And I think the highlight for me was to realize how much of a difference the girls in our council made in our community through their take action and their service projects and over the course of 1 year. I don't think anybody anywhere has ever sat down and documented the amount of service our girls and our volunteers gave last year, but the stories we heard are just phenomenal. And I would absolutely say thank you to all of you who made it such a significant year for the girls that you serve, and hopefully for yourself, as I know many of you are also Girl Scout alumni, and I hope that you were able to celebrate such a significant moment with your girls and your daughters, and possibly the generation of Girl Scout above you in your family, as I was able to do at many of our events. Does anyone have any particular questions about the 100th anniversary or any plans of significance to celebrate 101?
I don't see any questions right now. We will open it up at the end also for questions, so if something comes to mind, please feel free to type it in. But since we don't have any questions right now, I will continue to move on. Again, this is Kathy, and I wanted to get back a little bit to the governance prong of your jobs. And I wanted to explain a little bit of the difference between policy making and policy influencing. Policy making can only be done by the Board of Directors, and the Board of GSUSA hands policy down to us as a council. We do not make policy that is not approved by our Board of Directors. Your role as delegates and our Board Development Committee and some of our board committees and task groups is to influence policy by sharing information and getting in touch with the Board of Directors through the governance office here at the Council. A policy is an established binding course of action. It's the guiding principles of Council operations. It includes what our purpose will be, what is specifically going to be done. It includes financial practices and personnel practices that have to be implemented. Policy influencing is something that can happen in several different ways. As a delegate, it is your responsibility to become aware of the issues that are going to be voted on at annual council meeting, to attend that meeting, and then to cast your vote. As a delegate, you are also able to submit proposals to the board, keeping in mind that those proposals would need to be governance proposals and not operational proposals. In other words, if ever you were to review the bylaws and wanted to make a proposal for making amendments to those bylaws, that would be something that you could send to the Board of Directors. If it was a matter of different programs that you wanted to see happen at the Council, that's completely operational, and that's not something that would be part of your role as a delegate. It's important that as delegates, in order to be a part of this policy influencing, that you stay informed about board activities. Board minutes are posted on the GSCCC website so that you have access to them and you know what our board is doing. And the board actually has an email. That email does go through the governance office here at the Council. I am actually I am the secretary of the board, so I serve in that capacity, although I do not have a vote on the board. But when we receive emails that are written to the Board of Directors, we certainly share those emails with the board as is required, since you all are actually writing it to them, and we do want to make sure that they know what you all are saying. I do have a question that says, how do I get a copy of the policies and the bylaws? You can certainly get those right here at Council. We often send the bylaws out. I will certainly include a link. When we prepare the delegate packet, which we send out in the first couple of weeks of February, we also provide several of those documents online, and in the delegate packet it will tell you how to access those, but you'll be able to access the bylaws online. In the past, for the past 2 years, as a matter of fact, we have actually had amendments to our bylaws. Our Board of Directors reviews the bylaws on an annual basis. If they believe that there is a necessity to amend the bylaws, then those will be sent to a task group. The task group is made up of board members, volunteers, and staff members. They review those. After they review and make their recommendations, we send those recommendations to the attorney so that we can make sure they are written with legal acceptance and would be acceptable to the state of Virginia. And then those bylaws would be sent out with the delegate packet, and you all would vote on those. This year, there were no recommendations for changes to the bylaws, so we are not sending out any amendments, but you can certainly have a copy. Sorry, I'm looking at another question. Someone is asking me if copies of this presentation will be available, and we will actually be posting the webinar or the PowerPoint on our website, and we are actually considering recording it. We are in the process of recording it, and if the recording turns out in a suitable way, then we would offer the recording up as well. The Board of Directors minutes, somebody asked about where they are posted. If you go under Adults and click on the board, when you pull up the board link, there's going to be a spot off to the right-hand side where you can get copies of the minutes. That's, I believe, all the questions that I have right now, so I will continue, but again, feel free to continue to post questions. Governance versus operations is a big piece of acting as a delegate as well. Again, you all are primarily accustomed to wearing operational hats when you serve as troop leaders and cookie chairs and the many, many jobs that you all take care of. Governance is a little bit different. Governance is long-term and overreaching. It's actually about the corporate business. It is not about the day-to-day operations of what makes Girl Scouting happen. Governance is responsible for policy. We're responsible for establishing direction, priorities, assuring the financial stability. The board of directors is primarily responsible for that. There are a few staff members that work, such as myself, that work with the board. Operations is responsible for management of the staff, management of the volunteers, and supporting the volunteers, and implementing the policy and carrying out those strategic plans. So there is a big, big difference between the two, and we work very hard to make sure that they don't overlap any more than necessary, because our board understands that they are not responsible for the operations, and we want to make it clear that as delegates, you all are wearing a different hat than what you do under your operational prong. The issues that are going to be voted on at this annual council meeting, as I said, generally bylaws. If there are any changes, those will be voted on at annual council meeting. That will not be happening this year. The issues that you all will be faced with will be the board and the board development committee slate. The board development committee is actually the prong of our governance that recruits board members. They do this very purposefully by looking at our current board. We ask our board of directors to fill out some rather extensive surveys that discuss a lot of their demographic information, and it includes a lot of questions about what they believe their skill set is. We try to make sure that our board is reflective of our community. By that, we want them to have racial diversity, gender diversity. We are looking for a variety of ages to be represented. We work very hard to make sure that all of the communities in our council are represented, but we're also looking for particular skill sets. In other words, we want to make sure that we have people who can represent property issues. We want to make sure that we have attorneys on the board. We want to make sure we currently have people from the judiciary. We make sure that we have social work people. We really try to make sure that we have a lot of variety in the people who will be coming to our meetings so that they can really help us serve the council in the best way possible. So the second part of your job is to connect, and what we're asking from you with that piece of your job is that you're going to make sure that all of the delegate forms are completed and returned to council so that we can properly register you all in your positions and make sure that everyone is accounted for. We also want you to discuss what you're learning here with the state of the council and the finances, and when you receive the information about the proposed board candidates, we want you to share that information and talk with your service units so that everyone in the council is aware of what's going on and you're really being a good representative of your service unit. Now we are going to put a question to you, so feel free. Oh, let me see, I think I have a question from Sarah Troxel. Do we have anyone from the Middle Peninsula on the board of directors? Let me put that to Tracy for a minute, because honestly I'm going to be somewhat unsure of the definition of Middle Peninsula. Tracy, can you clarify that, I guess, a little bit?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I am going through it now. Since we lost our board member from Williamsburg, I don't believe we have anybody further up than Newport News at this time, Sarah, but I would say too that because there's a very specific United Way in Williamsburg, they always want to make sure we have representation from that area, and they also cover some James City County and that area. And so we are actively looking to start a relationship with somebody who would be interested in serving, that would also serve as a liaison for that United Way area. If you have someone from your area or also in the Poquoson area, it's been a good long time since we've had representation from either of those two areas.
This is a continual process. As I said, our board development committee works year-round, and we are always recruiting people who would be interested and be assets to our board of directors. So even though we are completing the slate really for this year, we are always working, we're already working towards people for next year to fill additional spots. Now we would like to put the question to you all of what is your vision of annual council meeting? I would suspect that most of you have probably attended annual council meetings in the past, and you know that they generally run about 2 hours in length. We try to do a pretty good mix of celebration in addition to the actual business of the meeting. But we are curious to know what your thoughts are. And again, this is something that if you go back and have this conversation with your service units, please feel free to send us this information in an email. I think I've received emails from many of you, so I would really love, in fact, to hear from you all as to what you would like to see with the annual council meeting. If it's not, I'm looking again at the Someone has said that the vision of annual council meeting is to learn, engage, and deliver the message to service unit volunteers, which sounds awesome. And I would say we really try to do that. That is the part of the meeting where we are talking about the state of the council. Tracy often gives a recap of some of our successes in the year. We also have a financial report that is delivered at annual council meeting. In order to make sure that everyone is aware of the state of the council. That's the only comment that I have received thus far. Again, if you would like to bring this conversation back to your service units, that's fine. Please feel free to contact either Tracy or myself via email to share your vision of annual council meeting. Tracy, did you have anything you wanted to add specifically about this aspect?
Not really. I honestly just want people to think about it and give us the suggestions. It's the governance meeting for our council, but it needs to be driven from you all. We tend to take an agenda and just update it each year. But we could start with a clean slate and move things around and start to shift the format if it's not meeting your needs, and we truly are serious when we ask for your input here. So you might not have it right now, but after you think about it for a little bit, please absolutely let us know your thoughts.
Okay, we're going to continue to move on. It doesn't appear that we have any more questions at this point, but again, feel free to type them in. I did just have, Susan was commenting on, oh wait, was that Susan? Someone commented on enjoying the Gold Awards, and I will say that that is a comment that we have received at every single one of our trainings. Certainly the Gold Awards are a big piece of annual council meeting, and everybody seems to really enjoy that particular piece, and we're certainly going to continue with that. Robert's Rules of Order, again, this is a business meeting, so whatever our changes are to it, we are still required to operate as a corporation and conduct the meeting as a business meeting. What that basically means for our purposes is that when we put items up for a vote, they are going to be made according to Robert's Rules of Orders, and they are going to be very formal. What that means is when our Board Development Committee stands up to present the slate, because it's coming out of committee, they're not going to have a motion and a second. They're just simply going to state that it's coming out of committee. They will present the slate to the chair of the board. The chair is going to call for discussion if there happens to be any on the board slate. If there is no discussion, she's going to call for a vote. And we're going to ask that, again, for those of you who've been there in the past, you're very familiar with the green voting cards. For those of you who have not been there, there's certainly nothing complicated about it. As a delegate, you will receive a packet upon arrival at annual council meeting, and you will be given a green voting card. So we will ask for all those in favor to raise the card, and we will ask for any opposition to also raise the card. Other than that, Robert's Rules of Order are not happening a lot because that's really our primary thing to vote on this year. We will also be inducting our board once the vote is taken, and that is again a formal process, but it really doesn't require Robert's Rules of Order in order to make that happen. The last piece of your job is to take action, and we are asking that you take action by attending annual council meeting. As I said at the beginning of this training, it is March 9th, 2013 at the Embassy Suites in Hampton Convention Center in Hampton. It is, for those of you who are not aware of it, almost directly behind the Hampton Coliseum. You can't miss it. It's very easy to get to. There's great parking. And we're really very pleased with that location. There will be registration and exhibits beginning at 8:30 in the morning. Just as there have been in the past, the exhibits will include community partners. It will include the Gold Awards. There will be a silent auction, and the shop, of course, will be there as it has been in the past. Call to order is going to happen at 10 a.m. The meeting, as I said, generally lasts about 2 hours. Following the meeting, there will be a short break before the Adult Awards Luncheon, which begins at 12:30. You can register. Registration for the event is already available online. We do ask that, although there is no cost for annual council meeting, we do ask that everyone registers so that we have, the proper count of the people who are attending and name badges and that sort of thing. The luncheon is the same cost that it was last year, which is $18. The council actually sponsors part of that cost, so we absorb part of it in order to try to keep the cost reasonable. Tracy, is there anything you would like to add about the annual council meeting itself or the Adult Awards Luncheon?
No, I believe you have covered all of that. It's a wonderful day of celebration, and it's an opportunity for people to engage with the work that we do in a little bit of a different way. There's a wonderful opportunity to see the enormous amount of work our girls do for their Gold Award projects, as well as to meet some community partners. And they may give you some great ideas for your troops as well. But honestly, I absolutely love the awards luncheon because that's where we get to spend time recognizing the significant amount of work our volunteers do for us.
I do have a question that someone asked if registering as a delegate automatically registers you for annual council meeting. No, it actually does not. They are two separate processes, so you do need to go online and register for the meeting. Someone else asked who presents their Gold Awards at the delegate meeting. I think by that we're referring to annual council meeting, and there actually aren't any Gold Awards that are presented as an individual at annual council meeting. What we generally do is the girls who have received their Gold Awards are contacted and offered the opportunity to display some information about their award at the exhibits section of annual council meeting. We also do a video piece about the girls who have received their awards in the last year, so they are recognized during the meeting as well. I'm going through just to make sure I've gotten the questions. Someone asked about silver awards and whether or not and whether or not we recognize those. We have not recognized those, but that's certainly something that you all could ask the program department about. It may be a matter of space, and we don't include the silver awards because of space. I've had a couple of people note that there is more than one of you all on the on a particular webinar. You all are listening to it together, and how we would know. You are welcome to send me an email and just let me know. If you'll just give me a second as I'm making sure. We do have a board member on the line who's been on this webinar with us, so I am going to unmute her. Stacy, are you there? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can.
I just wanted to say thank you to you and Tracy and all of the volunteers, because not only have y'all worked so hard this year, but I've learned so much on my first year as being a board member that y'all really made it easy. Even though it seems like a hard job, and it is a hard job, y'all have made it very easy with the guidance, and the volunteers keep the spirit going. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you. We appreciate having you on this training, and of course the work that you do as a volunteer as well. You put in quite a lot of effort for us.
Well, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to ask a question? That actually concludes our training for this evening. So before I call this meeting to a close, I would like to ask if there are any other questions. Okay, I don't see anything coming up. Certainly if you have questions following this webinar, feel free to send them to me via email. I did not add my email to this last slide, and I probably should have, but for those of you who are trying to get in touch with me, my name again is Kathleen Carup. I am the governance manager. My email address is kathleenk@gsccc.org. I would welcome your comments, questions. If there's any way that I can help you prepare, please do not hesitate to contact me. I am checking one last time. And I don't have any other questions. So that is all I have. Tracy, is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
Absolutely. Just want to say thank you so much for giving us another evening this week. I know this is not your first Girl Scout encounter this week. Thank you very much for all you do to serve the girls in our council. We truly, truly could not do it without you.
All right, you all have a great night. Again, contact us if you have anything else. And we appreciate your service in this particular role. You already do so much, and we appreciate you taking on this additional piece. I hope that all of you have a great night.